I was hanging out with the wrong crowd and involved with the bar scene every night. Coming from a small town with nothing to really do, the bar scene was where I just felt to fit in. But I'll get to that a little later. Growing up, I really had a thing for shoplifting, and over time, I became rather good at it. Not to brag, but I could enter a high-dollar department store and exit with about $1,200 worth of shit. Then, take it to the streets and easily make $400. Not too bad for about 20 minutes worth of work. The malls are filled with store after store. I wasn't greedy. I would go to the mall, pick out a yuppie store to my liking, do my thing, and be done for the day. Sometimes on occasion, before leaving the mall, I would make a stop in one of those little stores too. You know the type, shot glasses, knickknacks, shirts, gag gifts, that kind of shit. Hey, there's an audience for everything. Or, should I say, a buyer for everything. Looking back, I could have probably made a lot more money than I did. I was careless on that end of things. I mean, sometimes I was giving shit away, or even taking 1/10 of what I could have gotten for it. And the worst was trading for drugs, or when I was so fucked up, I would trade my hard-earned theft items for shots at the bar. Oh yeah, the bar. Smokies. I always thought it was a strange name for a bar. Nevertheless, Smokies was a place where I could get rid of 95% of everything I would boost. I mean, still. Smokies was the place that really drew me in. And not just because I was selling shit there. No, I loved the atmosphere. A real dive bar. Try finding one of those nowadays. Seems like bars have just been taken over by sports bars and your bullshit karaoke. A real dive bar is not a bar and grill, if you know what I mean. A dive bar is typically small, bathrooms with the long cloth towel rollers, with a scratched up mirror, and attached to them, condom machines with French ticklers in the men's bathrooms. And both bathrooms always dirty and smelling like piss. An average daily Starbucks drinker probably couldn't stomach it too well. A good dive bar will always seem to have an old school jukebox that plays 45s, possibly a live band on the weekends, a couple of pinball machines, a shuffleboard, and a pool table. Maybe 2 if you're lucky. And outside of the overwhelming loudness as the night progresses and the lonely, awkward daytime silence here and there, aside from the occasional glass breaking, one thing is for sure. You will always get to see all walks of life in a dive bar. Except, of course, that everyday Starbucks drinker. Well, one day, a Friday to be exact, I had made out really well doing my shoplifting thing right before the mall was about to close. Unfortunately, as I went to leave, my car would not start. My good old piece of shit Buick. I tried to turn it over a couple more times. Same result each time. Click, 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 click. Mad and frustrated. I started calling around to people I thought might be able to come get me, while still trying to start my car here and there. Click, click. And straight to voicemail with the numbers I had tried. I continued to finger through my phone, texting this person, that person. Finally, I was able to get a hold of my friend Cece. She was out driving around with her new wannabe, criminal-type boyfriend who steals cars and sells dope for a living. Who am I to judge? I still, and I even do drugs on occasion. I guess a ride is a ride. Whatever. I was rather surprised they would come and get me in the first place. A while back at Smokey's, when she was working late at her diner job, her boyfriend was there at Smokey's, hitting on me, being very sexual and aggressive in nature and overwhelmingly persistent. I really cannot stand him. Such a fucking snake. And not even close to being my type. Of course, when I told her and she confronted him, he totally denied it. Which kind of got us all fighting with each other, unfortunately. He was a real dick. Even more of a dick to her and a snake to everyone who crossed his path. A real asshole. He had the nerve to say I was coming on to him. So they pulled in to pick me up. He was driving, of course, drunk as usual. The car came to a stop and he opened the driver's side door and hopped out to get in the back while telling me, "Girl, you're gonna have to drive from here. I'm too fucked up." Cece didn't have a license, so she couldn't drive. They both got in the back seat of the car. I piled the merchandise I had just stolen that night onto the passenger side seat, hopped into the driver's seat, slammed the door, and turned the ignition key to the car that was already started. "Hey, don't fuck up my ride," he whined, as Cece laughed hysterically. Awkward at first, as if they didn't want to pick me up. "We're going to Smokey's," Cece said. "That's fine, that works for me," I replied. I knew I'd likely be able to sell some of the clothes and other items I had stolen earlier. Plus, I didn't mind because I lived right down the street from Smokey's anyway, and I knew that I could walk home at the end of the night. Smokey's was about a 20-minute drive from the mall, so it was a little bit of a ways to get there. They were all over each other in the back seat, making out and groping one another. I hadn't eaten all day, and they were making me sick to my stomach. Anyway, we're about 15 minutes away, and that's when I noticed a police car behind us. I did my best not to panic, but my heart was racing, and I was just trying to maintain the speed limit of 45. My turn was quickly approaching. I turned on my blinker as I pulled up to a stop at the red light. I wasn't sure if I should go or wait for the green light. I knew it was legal to turn on red, but I was so panicked I couldn't think straight. There were no other cars coming, so I made a decision and proceeded to take the right turn. I was so relieved when I was halfway down the block and the cop was still sitting at the red light. Then, all of a sudden, as I glanced in the rearview mirror, the cop was on my ass. I was overwhelmed by the red and blue lights. Shit. First thing I thought, and something that somehow didn't cross my mind earlier, was, I hope this car isn't stolen. How did I not even think of that before? Long story short, the car was stolen. There was money and drugs in the glove box, not to mention all the shit I had just stolen sitting next to me on the passenger seat with the tag still on them. I was fucked. Cece and her boyfriend lied and told the cops that I had picked them up, and they knew nothing of the drugs, money, merchandise, or stolen car. I was charged with grand theft auto and possession of narcotics with the intent to sell. They would later drop the stolen property charge, which was the only crime I was actually guilty of. I had never been in trouble my whole life, and I was scared. My grandparents placed their house up for collateral to bail me out of jail. I was looking at a 5 to 10 year prison sentence. Being in the county jail for a week, I just knew prison wasn't a possibility for me. As much as I didn't want to disappoint my grandparents and put them in a bad predicament and see them lose their house, my thoughts and fears led me to say, fuck it. I had had some homeless friends and knew that they would hop trains from city to city. I was done with this town. I cut off my ankle bracelet and packed a small bag with the decision to be on the run.